Hi, everybody. I don't know if there's anyone here. No, not yet. We just got out of the court for the day, so I'm late getting connected to do this live. The judge basically held us longer um, than he normally does. He held us until about 5:25. Then he suspended the trial, and then he wanted to let the jury be able to leave and go down the elevator before anyone else. So I see that Judy is on. Judy, if you could write in the comments that you can hear me, that would be great. And then I'll get started soon. I'm sorry I'm late. I just was saying that I'm late because we got out of trial late today. The judge held us until 5:25, and then we had to wait until the jury got onto the elevator and out so that they didn't have to wait for us. So I'll show while we're waiting for more people to join, which I'm not sure where people are going to join because I'm late getting on, but all these people just got out of the court, so all the press basically gather to do interviews and they wait for the defense attorneys to walk out so they can question them. But we literally just got out of court for the day, and I mean, I'm not sure, but there's going to be a lot of people in this transmission, so I think I'm just going to go ahead. But one of the big, huge pieces of information that came out today, just right now while we were held in court after 5 o'clock, was a major member of the Sinaloa cartel, which is a Mexican drug trafficking organization, used Israeli diplomats to carry 100 to 150 million dollars of drug money from Honduras to Colombia between 2008, I believe, and 2010. And so that was a huge piece of news that came out today as the defense was questioning a member of the Sinaloa cartel that worked really closely with El Chapo. And El Chapo is a big drug figure who's now in prison in the US, probably one of the most famous drug traffickers. Um, and so this man who he's testifying under the name Luis Perez, he testified today that they took drug money from Honduras to Colombia by using a woman that worked in the Israeli embassy in Colombia who had a diplomatic visa, and she would carry money up to, he estimated, between 100 to 150 million dollars over several years from Honduras to Colombia. And so if I'm not mistaken, I think she earned 1% of that. I might be mistaken. She would get a cut of how much money she carried, but that's pretty big news. It was sort of unrelated necessarily to Juan Orlando Hernandez, but still really relevant, especially considering, all the geopolitics that are coming out in this trial. So I know people can watch this live later, and I think there's only 4 people watching. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is the Honduras Solidarity Network just released a update today. I think it was update number 8 in our putting the U.S. and Canada on trial campaign. And what we were looking at was one of the witnesses that testified last week, who was a confessed drug trafficker named Alexander Ardon. And what we did in our update is we showed how the U.S. Ambassador James Nealon, who was ambassador from 2014 to 2017 in Honduras, actually stood with the 2 Ardon brothers, who are now both big star witnesses for the prosecution because of their role in trafficking drugs in Honduras. Both of those brothers posed with James Nealon, the U.S. Ambassador in Honduras. And what is so shocking to me about that picture, and you can go to HondurasNow.org to see that picture, is that, James Nealon didn't get to Honduras until 2014, and he was there until 2017. And so what's interesting about that picture and the fact that he posed with those 2 well-known drug traffickers in Honduras at the time when he was in Honduras as ambassador was that there was really significant documentation that both of those brothers were involved in drug trafficking. So, for example, I think I outlined in the update number 8 that the Wilson Center, which gets U.S. congressional funding to do research, had written a report in 2011 showing and mentioning how Ardon was involved in drug trafficking, um, and how he was very well known to be a representative of the Sinaloa cartel in Honduras. And also later in 2013, the Honduras Solidarity Network, we coordinated electoral observation to Honduras for the 2013 elections. And some of our electoral observers and some people that are on this live actually were part of that electoral observation mission. They actually took testimony about really suspicious electoral fraud where drug traffickers were threatening electoral, basically voting table workers, telling them that they couldn't go out to basically supervise the votes in the elections in 2013 in the Department of Copan. And the Honduras Solidarity Network took those testimonies. We put it out in a preliminary election report. We spoke to the U.S. Embassy about it. There was a team from Canada that came to observe the elections that also spoke to the Canadian government about these electoral observations and about the serious concerns we had about fraud that was drug related, linked to the Department of Copan, where a lot of like Ho got his alleged votes in the 2013 elections, and we were totally ignored. And James Nealon, the U.S. ambassador, ignored us to the degree that he even thought it was okay, or he claims that he didn't know that those two Ardon brothers were actually like involved in drug trafficking. And so this is like pretty big. For me, this is just like another indication that the U.S. and Canadian governments were warned so many times about the level of drug trafficking in the post-coup states in Honduras. And they, even when we told them and we met with them and we gave them reports, and we were ignored. And this is just one other example of how clearly, like, there's just so much evidence to show that there's just no way the U.S. didn't know. And if, like, electoral observers that were just visiting Honduras temporarily knew, how is it possible that one of the largest governments in the world with some of the largest and most extensive intelligence and state security forces didn't know as well? And I would repeat that again about what is known, what came out today in trial, that an Israeli diplomat basically used a diplomatic visa from Israel to carry millions and millions of dollars of drug money from Honduras to Colombia to money launder for the Sinaloa cartel, who was running drugs using the largest port in Honduras, which is Puerto Cortes, basically to bring shipping containers filled with drugs to then ship them into, take the drugs into the United States. And so that member of the Sinaloa cartel that was using the Israeli diplomat to carry dollars in suitcases to Colombia to launder drug money, that Sinaloa cartel member was also using Honduras's largest port, which is also used as very strategic for a lot of U.S. companies as well to basically export to the United States. But they were using that port to import and to transport cocaine in and out of Honduras with basically Juan Orlando Hernandez's blessing, because the Sinaloa cartel member made donations to Juan Orlando Hernandez's 2013 electoral campaign to basically allow them to receive those drug shipments in that port, which is Honduras's largest port and the largest port in Central America on the northern coast of Honduras. And so, I mean, that's the big bomb that came out today in trial, but it also, connects to just how much evidence there was about what was known in Honduras about the level of drug trafficking that was going on, and the fact that there were really clear signs, and in this case with update number 8 in our campaign, that there were already U.S. government funded think tanks and research centers saying, this mayor in this municipality is involved in drug trafficking. He's known to be working for the Sinaloa cartel, and that was ignored for years, even when electoral fraud was very, very obvious in 2013 in that department where that drug trafficker was based. It was ignored by the U.S. government. It was ignored by the U.S. ambassador, who would later go on to take pictures shoulder to shoulder with these drug traffickers. And then it was ignored later again in 2017 when Juan Orlando Hernandez ran illegally for re-election. So I encourage people that are watching, there's very few people that are watching right now, but I know that this video will be shared and watched later. I encourage people to read update 8 of our campaign. You can find it at hondurasnow.org. Please share that picture with James Nealon and the standing next to 2 drug traffickers. And send it to your congressional representatives and your parliamentary representatives and say, we need an investigation as to why James Nealon, a U.S. ambassador, is appearing with 2 drug traffickers, even though there was very significant evidence that he was, that these men were involved in drug trafficking. If electoral observers from the Honduras Solidarity Network knew that there was some serious suspicious business going on with drug trafficking money in the 2013 elections, how is it possible that James Nealon didn't know when he posed in pictures with those men? So I'm going to probably sign off for now, but thank you very much for joining me on this live transmission. I'm very sorry I'm late. Again, we got out of court a little bit late today. We were let go at 5:25. And so please share this transmission. Please take action as part of this campaign as more and more information comes out that really reveals the level of knowledge that I'm sure the U.S. and Canadian government had about the narco state in Honduras over many years, information that they chose to ignore and strategically ignore for so many years. And then I really encourage people to read the update number 8 and to share update number 8 and to share our action, which is basically a quick action to send a letter to your congressional representatives and your parliamentary representatives asking for an investigation into the Canada and U.S.'s support for the narco state in Honduras. So stay tuned for the summaries from today. There was 4 witnesses that testified today. Very much quicker process today. So I will post summaries of the most important information that came out and obviously link it to the campaign updates to U.S. and Canadian policy in Honduras. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me, and I'll try and do another live later in the week. Have a good night.